be able to hear you while we're filming. Well, it's 3 p.m. in Tallahassee. And where are you?
I am in Pennsylvania, and
All
it is
right.
3 p.m. here too.
How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you, sis?
I'm fine. I'm trying to chat it up for a minute. It always takes another few seconds to get people to tune in
All right.
alive, so we'll kick the can down the street just a little bit. Just
Okay.
a little bit. So I hope the sunlight will start streaming in so that brightens up my picture, but that's how it
You look
goes.
great. I can see you.
And you
You
do
look
look great.
bright and beautiful.
Yes, thank you. When
Mhm.
they say throw it in the air and it's like sunshine. So,
Ah.
welcome to Midlife Priceless. And that is for the audience. I'll welcome them and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit. But let's get ready for an experimental live. This is my first StreamYard, and I hope I do this right and it's flawless and beautiful and all the things. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to. I have to tell the truth early in case I make a mistake. Midlife Priceless is a channel where there's conversation really about what's happening in the world and kind of putting it through the screen and kind of filtering it from the perspective of people who are of age, namely baby boomers and Generation Jones. I don't know where Generation Jones came from, but that's what I read. Today, I have a guest, a very special guest, a very dear friend, Nicole, and I'm going to let her talk a little bit about what she's working on with Nicole Cole Truth. And then we're going to jump headlong into our topic for today, which is imposter syndrome. We said that we were going to have talking points and make it all formal and everything, but she and I talk so often that it's sort of, we ended up having the conversation in the process of making a list, in which case we should have been recording. So we just said, never mind, and we'll just start fresh. So, Nicole, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us about yourself, what you got going on.
Man. Well, just trying to birth a little something here. The ice cold truth really comes from a combination of experiences throughout life, the the reflection we get back from our friends and who we are,
Mm.
and just getting to a point in your life where you're not afraid of doing much of anything. So if I start a following, it's really going to be like, look, I am starting to jump into doing things that I've always wanted to do, simple things, really based on my calling. And then, for other people to know that it is okay to start. It doesn't matter where you are or what stage in life. And it's never too late. The time is when it is, pretty much.
So when you say you're starting to journey on the things that you've always wanted to do, would you call it a bucket list or is it just some stuff? Because I don't have a bucket list. I just have some stuff. And it occurs to me as I'm journeying. I kind of make it up as I go along.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your approach?
I think it's more the stuff. The bucket list is usually incorporated, weaved in there somewhere, but it really is about the stuff. It's about having that thing that's just in your gut your whole life that you want to do, that you feel that you want to do, but you just haven't done it for one reason or another. Either you've held yourself back or life was just lifing. And there's some people who feel like, oh, I don't have to, I'm too old to do it, or I don't know enough to do it. And just letting go. The whole idea is to really just try to let go of that so that you don't have that last moment in life where you're about to close your eyes and you're like, oh, I wish that woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Right. Well, a lot of times I think people think it has to be something wild and crazy or dangerous to qualify, and I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, my bucket list includes things like publishing my first book and things like that. There are a couple of wild things in there, but not really. Not
No,
really.
it's not usually a wild thing. It's usually something that is so, it's usually a simple concept that people have figured out for one reason or another they can't do it, or don't have the time to do it.
Hmm.
It's never anything adventurous like skydiving or
Right.
bungee jumping.
Right. Not that there's anything wrong with that, as they say.
Not
It's
that
just
there's
that
anything wrong with it, but it's that thing
right.
that once, if you tell anyone that you want to do it, or
Mhm.
people usually say to you, you should do, and it's constantly hearing the same thing and you're still not doing it. You haven't done it yet. Like,
It's
what?
interesting. People see more in you than you see in yourself a lot of times.
That's
And they
right.
think, oh, but you're so talented at it. The things people think I'm talented at, to me, is just folly. I'm just having a good time. I don't
Hmm.
see it as as a serious endeavor. Even if it's paid work, it's still fun. And that's,
Right.
yeah, I try to work through that. I try to work through that. So, what characterizes your list? Is it things that are exciting for you or unusual, maybe? I know one time we were talking and you were saying that your passion is in helping people.
Hmm.
So, would you say that that categorizes most of your list or the things that you're pursuing?
It is. I think for me, most of it starts from, if you look at any of us, right?
Mhm.
Look at the child within and look at how I was as a kid and what was I interested in. I've always been reserved, shy. I read a lot, I wrote a lot, and I've always had that in me. And I've wanted to tap into a certain audience since I was a teenager.
Mm.
And that was the help. Like my first example. So, my real things I wanted to start, I was interested in communications and journalism. And my first example was my mom used to get Essence magazine every month.
I remember that.
And as a teenager, they had Young Miss magazine. It became Young and Modern at some point, but it was called
Yes, I
Young Miss.
remember that. Yes,
It
yes,
was
yes.
a teenage magazine. So I loved getting both of them because the Young Miss had a lot of things that had to do with health and beauty and all that other stuff for the
Right, right.
teenager. But Essence magazine was about the sisters and that great black beauty. But we didn't have a combination of the two. So I kept reading both magazines. The first thing I wanted to do was create a magazine. And this is back then when we didn't, of course, didn't have the internet, or you don't know how to find or do anything, right? I wrote a letter to Essence magazine saying, hey, I want to create this Young Essence magazine, which is a
Right,
combination of these two things.
right,
And I didn't know that was a query letter at the time. I didn't know it was a real thing.
right,
So
right,
they got back to me saying they loved the idea, but they didn't have, anything in the budget for that. And as
right.
time went on, my whole life, I always wanted to create something along that line. So first it was the magazine. And for somebody who doesn't keep anything, I have my first outline that I wrote when I was 14 for this
Wow.
magazine.
So
Fast
you're just
forward,
holding it? I mean, what are you doing with it? You just have it.
I just have it. And
Okay.
I go back to it. I think the purpose of it is that I've always wanted to do something along that line in some
Mm,
way, shape, or form. And the technology has changed what that is. And I blogged for a little while about 10 years ago and I stopped. So
right.
it's always the start and stop and the start and stop. And
It's always the life is life in.
life is life in.
Yeah, it's always something.
Yeah.
I what I find interesting is now that we have all the options and the controls on our keyboard, we actually now shied away from it, to your point. But who buys published, printed publishing, print published periodicals anymore. People want that digital thing. And to be honest, that's fine, but I'm still a person that wants to touch and hold the paper and make a little mark in the margin with my pencil and things like that. I'm more hands-on than digital seems to allow for. And yes, I know you can get a digital pen, and that's still not, I don't feel it. I want to feel it. And that's the missing element for me. So when you talk about the list, I think my problem with my list is that one thing depends upon the other. Things aren't just in a vacuum all by themselves. It's really um, like, for example, the novel. Yes, I want to publish it, but I also want to do an audio book, which brings in the AI piece. But I also wanted to do, believe it or not, a clothing line and yes, an adult toy store for the book. All of this is all part of the book. But I can't even seem to get the book finished. I worked on it a bit Sunday and I got quite a lot done. I got my voice back for one of my characters who's writing a diary. And I didn't like it, and that's one of the reasons I never really felt finished that I was finished. But I realized when I did more research about writing a diary, people don't write diaries in full thoughts or sentences. They write words, they write random thoughts. It's never a it's not meant to be an account blow by blow. And at 3 o'clock and at 4 o'clock, it's not meant to be chronological like that. And
Right.
people don't anyway. So I had to get away from the narrative voice, the third person, and start writing in the first voice, the first person voice. And that's been a challenge for me. But it's been a journey, like you said, you just keep going and eventually you find your way. So
Yeah.
I that brings us to a nice segue with the whole idea of imposter syndrome. I think I see some positives and negatives in it, but I think it's better since this is your topic, really, of choice. I hear what you're thinking about that because I feel like an imposter with this writing. That's what I was really thinking. But anyway,
I think that so it's funny because I think our passion, right?
mm,
And that is your passion. It's been about writing this book.
right.
And you still feel an imposter with the thing that you feel so passionate about. So I came into this and we talked about this, before, like, okay, well, this is going to be the subject. I said, okay, well, now that I've never done this, let me figure out, well, maybe I need to be official. Let me get some
Yeah.
notes down. I feel like, oh, let me do some research.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
according to KPMG, I think it's an accounting firm,
Right.
75% of female executives experience imposter syndrome. I have to put some other notes together. And as I am also, I'm there like, okay, well, there's so much with the notes.
Right.
Now let me think about real life stuff,
Right.
right? That would be true. One of the other things I do know, which is a home quote, um, charity begins at home and it ends abroad. So us feeling that we are imposters is not just at work, it's at home, it's in relationships, it's everywhere we go because it really is the essence of who we are. And instead of focusing so much on, so there's the part where you may have to go and do the research, like, why am I that way? Why do I feel that way? As women, how we're raised and all of these other things. You
Right.
can sit, and if it's me, I'll go down a rabbit hole and try to think of all of the reasons why, when I could be doing some other things like really figuring out just how to get at this point, this stage of life. Okay, great. Even if I know why, I still have to get to a solution. And I think I've come up with one.
All right.
You helped me with it too.
What was well, what is it and how did we get there? I don't. I'm really not joking around. I'm trying to think. What did we talk? We talk so much about different things. You and I have similar interests, which I'm coming to that in a moment too. But what was the solution?
Well, The solution is you really just have to know who you are. And in order to know who you are, you have to want to spend the time with yourself. And I found 3 ways to do that.
Okay.
The first one is in journaling,
Yeah.
right? Because we have a lot of thoughts in our heads. And I don't journal on regular, but there are times when I have a thought or something, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, and I write all of this stuff down. And I go back to it a month later, and I'm like, shoot, wait a minute. You wrote that? I'm like, damn, that sounds good. But I also get to know a lot about myself and how I think,
Right.
right? By doing that.
Self-analysis.
Self analysis. The second version of that is recording your own voice, because then you really get a little bit more
Yeah.
into what you're passionate about, what hurts you or what makes you happy by, the changes in your voice and how you sound. And then you get to learn that bit about yourself a little bit more. So that's an extension of the writing. And the third part came from you.
Okay.
Because a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about these ventures, and he said, have you recorded yourself? Get yourself on video. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like, okay, because if we're not taking note of these things about ourselves, then
Right.
that means that we're really afraid to face who we are. And if
That's
you
true.
are afraid to face who you are,
Mhm.
you're always going to feel like an imposter.
You know, while you're talking, and we talked about journalism and writing and so on, the irony is that we actually found each other outside of this whole idea of communications as a community, as a profession. I didn't learn what you were doing until we were both in the same town at the same time. And I don't know if you remember, we met on the street. I can't remember what we were exchanging. I was dropping something off or picking something up or something when we were downtown. We were both working downtown then. And I don't remember what it was, but I guess it's not important now. But that's when I said, oh, we do the same thing for a living. I was shocked because I didn't know that about you. And to bring the viewers in on this conversation, Nicole and I met on the dance floor practically. We're both part of the Chicago Step and Dance community, and um, I can't say who introduced us or anything. It was just, socializing, and uh, through dance, you meet so many people. I've always said it's one of the best things I ever did for myself. I got to meet everybody from a truck driver and a janitor right on up to a brain surgeon. You just don't know who's on the dance floor, and it's not part of the dance. So you get to come as you are and be who you are and express yourself through dance. And because it's partner dancing, as they say to us, just look good and follow, look pretty and follow. It's actually a relief to me. I know that may sound anti-intuitive to the whole women's movement and empowerment. I get tired of being that sometimes. And so the dance floor gave me a break. And I didn't have to think about anything. And he's doing all the planning, where we're going on the floor, twirl here, do this, dip back, and all. I love dancing for that reason, because it gave me a break. But when I thought about how to introduce you, I said, well, maybe I should start with that. But that was a little too chronological and would take too long to get into the subject. But here's why I wanted to bring that up. How many times have we seen imposters on the dance floor?
Mm.
Men who think they know how to do this thing, and you can feel it. 10 steps in, and you already, it's an 8-step count, trust. By the 10th movement of your foot, you know who you're dealing with or not.
Absolutely. Sometimes I say they're going to turn you on 12.
That's it. Oh my God. I one person I danced with, he said to me, you start. Got
Mm.
on the dance floor and told me to start. I That's not how that dance works.
No.
I said, do you know how to step? Is that it? You don't know how to step. But I'm just saying, you start so I know how you want to. This is a problem. We have imposters everywhere. Now, if it's a syndrome or not, or if it's an inclination, or sometimes you're just trying to present well. But I had to laugh when I thought about it, and I said, where else have I seen imposter?
You just flipped this whole thing. So, yes, yes, and yes. Because, so, my focus is really on us as women
Right,
feeling, we're imposters, right? And if
right.
I think about the history of us as women feeling that way, a lot of the times it is because people set us up to feel like we are. So if you talk about dancing, especially when you just start out, or if you only been in it for a few years and you know what you're doing, basically, right? And you
Mhm.
get out there and a guy takes you out there and somehow you feel like, I feel like, oh, I got it wrong. I didn't turn. I didn't this. Or
Yeah,
they even say to you, I gave you a left turn. Did you?
right.
Now I'm at the point like, oh, okay, well, I didn't feel it. If I can't feel it, then and this dance is about communications.
That's right.
It
And
really
it's not,
is.
and it's not verbal.
It's not verbal. It is about trust.
Yes.
Sometimes I say, look, if I'm dancing with somebody, I know how that guy's in a relationship. You got the
Did you know?
person who will barely give you the move, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, you're very timid, and so, I'm like, oh,
Right.
okay. You
Right.
want to
Right.
manhandle somebody?
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they don't want to. They A lot of them don't want to learn.
That's the other
They don't
piece.
want to learn. They don't want to go to
Too proud to learn.
classes. Yeah, they
Too
don't
proud
want
to
to learn.
learn. I think a lot of times too, and by the way, if you don't dance, let me just break in here and explain. The way we dance as partners is the man is leading you with his hands. You can feel him pulling or pushing you in any direction. Even the way he holds you around your waist can be an indication of what to do. And if he doesn't give you that firm, not manhandling, but a firm guide as to where he wants you to go, then you end up sort of just dangling like a leaf falling from a tree. You just doing I flip it over this way, maybe that's it. But the worst part is when your dance partner looks at you disapprovingly or says something to you about your error. It's not your error, actually, it's his error in leadership.
Mhm.
So we have a saying in the Chicago stepping community that stepping does not create problems in your relationship, it brings them out. So a lot of times, oh, you never,
Yes.
oh, how many couples have we seen? Oh boy, oh boy.
You learn a lot out there. You learn how to handle your relationship. You learn to see how other people handle their relationships. Whether you're in a relationship or not, that three and a
Right
half
now,
or so minutes of the dance will teach you. Because a lot of times as women also, like when I dance a lot, they'll be like, "Let me lead. Would you let me lead?" And I say to them, "I get it." And no, but they're right, because I'll anticipate. Sometimes you anticipate that next move, but for a lot of women, if you are handling business 7 days a week,
that's
right,
right.
and on that eighth day you go to dance, you always have to anticipate, especially for Black women, you always have to anticipate what's next. You got something you need to take care of, and you're not used to having someone lead you.
Right.
So it is a way to learn how to
Like,
just to be a lady, and just to, like you said, like, I don't have to feel, I don't have to think. Hopefully that person is going to lead me in the direction that I need to go in, and all I have to do is follow. You should be able to do it with your eyes closed.
that's it. Yeah, in truth, you should. If it weren't for the fact that you need to look at where you are spatially, yeah, you should be able to do this with your eyes closed.
Your eyes closed.
I
Mhm.
I also came to realize through dance that um, I part of what you were saying, anticipation also comes from dancing with the same person too much. That was
Yeah.
another lesson I learned from dance, is to invite change, invite diversity, invite new ways of doing the same thing you think you already know how to do.
Mhm.
So the person I danced with 99% of the time, I got to the point where I only knew how to dance with him.
Yeah.
When he and I agreed, we need to dance with other people. I mean, it's fun and it's fine. Let's have a song, and when that song comes on, it's our song. We're gonna do our thing.
Hmm.
Let's circulate more and learn more. And it really made for a healthier dance partnership in the end. And I think relationships are like that too. You can't just be so have your tunnel focus on one person, and then when it's time to step outside of your zone, whether it's because the person goes on a business trip, or goes on a trip with the fellas, or the whatever. Once they're
Hmm.
not there, they could be ill. Heaven forbid they go to glory. What do you do now? Who are you? Because a lot of women have adopted this role. I don't want to say it's a syndrome, but it really is this imposter's tendency and inclination, being a wife and mother. What does that mean? And then I hear it all too often. Well, when the children left, we didn't know each other. Well, what do you mean? How can you abandon ship but still be on it? I don't know if that makes any sense, but how can you still be in a marriage and in a relationship with someone, working on the same things, looking each other eye in the eye year after year? And then when one or two people exit, those being your children in this scenario, how come you don't know each other? What happened?
Because they're on opposite ends of the ship the
Okay.
whole time.
Are you a prophet? That's a good, that well said. Well said.
Yep. Opposite ends of the ship. No, they don't know each other.
And isn't that sad? After all the blood, sweat, and tears to bring the ship ashore, there's nothing there. Hmm. So that I've been holding that one. That was my little. You had your blue sheet of paper. That's the one I've been holding, waiting for this show. Because I said that's all right. Because I'm a tat out. I got something to
I
say.
love it. I
So
love
yeah,
it.
but
This
I
goes to
thought
show
about,
how broad it
yeah.
really is.
So is there, in your opinion, is there a time when imposter syndrome is a good thing?
Yes, because I mean it's a negative of some sort, but we're here to learn in life, right?
Mhm.
If we know everything, if we do everything right, if everything flows smoothly
Mhm.
all the time, what is there for us to learn? Not much.
Right. Like they say, it takes the rain to appreciate a sunny day, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Because then, you get to look back on the journey and say, well, I didn't, like I look at this stage of my life now and say that there are lots of things that I need to get to it
Mm.
because the time goes by. When you were little and all the older heads used to say, oh, life is short. And that was just something that went right over your head. Okay. I think we now know that we're at this age, and if there's something that we want to do, rather going to do it or it may not get done. And then what?
Hmm.
And the only person who usually knows you're an imposter is you, because it's this notion that you have. Nobody else knows. I talk to people all the time, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm doing such and such." I spoke with a young lady recently, in our field, and she's like, "Yeah, but I don't feel like." I said, "Girl, if you didn't say a word, I found her." I said, if you did not say a word to me, I wouldn't know. And I think that's why I've had this on my mind so much. People say it to me too. They're like, I hate that.
I think you're really quite the expert at what you do, and I don't know that you recognize that in yourself the way that others do. Um, you have, since I've known you, you've always been, um, it's a good word. Uh, you've always been even, like level. That's a good word.
Uh,
You always seem level. I've never seen you. Not that you don't get upset. I mean, you're a human being, but I've never seen you emotional or off the hook or having a bad day. I know we all do it. I do it. I'm not always this lovely. Uh, I'm not always this pleasing, but I've I know that I've had some moments that were not my shining moments in public, uh, and I've never seen that with you. And I've always liked that. I was like, dang, what does it take? Is there a pill for that? So, and I don't know many people like that. That's why it stands out to me. Most of my
oh,
circle, we're a little more um, emotionally animated.
okay,
Yeah.
I got it. I got it. Oh, that might be the reserved part, or we talk about even about being an imposter. Now is an interesting time because, well, the other part about me that is my family's from Trinidad,
Mhm.
and um, if I have to really think or like getting to know who I am, I don't, especially if I'm not in the environment a lot, like I don't think about it as much. And for the past few days, I have gotten so much into the carnival season. Like
It is
the
that
TV
season.
running all day, and then when I watch those things or I hear, my people, we are really, and all of the islands are different. But
Right.
Trinidad
Right.
in particular is a very I don't care, I will not be bothered type of
Mhm.
personality for the most part. I mean, we have our hot and heated, and what we get. Look, if you've never seen me mad, girl, it is not
I've
nice.
been
It
carnival.
happens. It happens every I don't know 5 years, and when it happens, whoever is there, like, oh my god, it is horrible. And then I come
Back
right that right. But usually it's still like, okay, I keep it moving.
I've not been to Trinidad Carnival, all the fact of the matter, it is probably and renowned to be the best carnival throughout the Caribbean. So kudos there. But I did go to Carnival in St. Thomas, and I didn't even know myself. I listen. I was so tired. I went to Juve morning. I think that was the first time I ever had alcohol for breakfast. And it just went downhill from there. By sunset, I had lost my mind. I danced and we partied. We have in St. Thomas, I don't know if you have it in Trinidad, and here's a question: do you have something called Carnival Village where the food and the bars are open in a one location 24/7 throughout Carnival?
I'm going to say I don't know, but I'm going to also say I am sure. I feel like the
Yeah,
entire
it is.
island is open that way. The whole
Yeah.
place.
Do we now in Grenada it's a little it I don't want to say it quiets down at night as in things shut down, but it is not the same experience that I had in St. Thomas, nor in Carriacou, same thing. People wear themselves out practically. So it does get a little quieter, and then by morning they grinding again. But the joy of carnival is posing yourself to be someone that you're not. It's not Mardi Gras per se, but that's a good point of reference if you don't know anything about carnival. And I always said I wanted to get a costume and play my what. I don't know when I'm going to get to it. I'm 60 and I'm just going to be that little old lady and I'll end up on YouTube and they'll say, "Look at her. Can you imagine?"
Nope. So we can put that on the list if we're gonna have a bucket list. And
All right.
I beg to differ on the imposter. So I'm glad that you said that. So you see
Okay.
that point of view, which makes sense, right? You're out there and you're not yourself. But the other part of it, and that's when I was really sitting and watching today, is this is where you really are not an imposter because you get to be yourself. The whole idea and spirit of carnival is this isn't like us in our everyday where they're like, oh, well, let me nip and tuck this and put this in, and this is hanging, and who and uh-uh. Everybody, I don't care if you're skinny, you're fat, you're this, you're who, whatever, you got a booty or you have none or whatever, and everybody's just out there being free. And those are the moments that I sit and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what carnival is all about. It is just being free.
Mhm.
It's almost like being, like if you're the one person hanging out and you're half naked, okay, well, you look
Mhm.
some kind of way, but you're out at the beach and everybody's wearing a string bikini. Nobody cares at the end of the day. And I'm looking at them and it's the music and the reveling and and there's this whole thing, about carnival where it's like, you're just whining, I guess for your listeners, right? That whole
Right, right.
dancing on top of somebody type
Yeah.
of thing. And it's not a thing. You take your 2-minute wine and you go about your business. Like, oh, I want to meet. No, it is the most liberating thing out there, and a lot of people are afraid to do it. I think I've been afraid to do it forever and a day.
Yeah, I'm starting to not be afraid. You understand?
Starting to not be afraid,
I
just
say do it while you
experience it
got it.
and just be free. And you're
Yeah.
absolutely not being an imposter because you don't care what they don't these people don't care what they don't care what
Judgment
they look
free.
like.
Judgment free. Judgment free. You're right.
Judgment free.
Mhm.
More than a certain gym that we know. You talk about
It
the real
really
judgment free.
is.
I thought about that today.
Okay.
I thought about you and that today, and I said, oh, I feel like here's the real judgment free zone. You're just on the road and you're dancing and you're
Let me tell
winding
you,
down and you're kicking up and
I wrote a letter to Planet Fitness and sent them the link to report my complaint and let them know I had shared it with the audience. And if you think they got back to me, you'd be thinking all wrong. I haven't heard a word. Oh well.
these people don't know.
Oh well. But yeah, back to, I want to do carnival. I have this fantasy of wearing one of those really ornate $3,000 costumes, the with the feathers, the ostrich, looking like I just walked off of a Vegas stage with things flapping and oh, I have my fantasy. It'll happen for me one day. It'll happen. But that brings to the next point. I think sometimes we are shying away from things such as I have because it's not age appropriate. It's not in the Western context, mind you, because we have a lot of hangups in the U.S. Age appropriate, gender appropriate, socioeconomic appropriate, your pedigree meaning, oh well, we don't do that. I also found it in church, something we have not talked about.
Mm.
And just for the viewers, if you're just tuning in, welcome to Midlife Crisis. We're talking about imposter syndrome. And if you see me looking down and all over, it's because the look up there and that little dot flashing at me is I can't see Nicole. So I end up looking down, but now I look like I'm looking at the floor. Anyway, back to the imposter syndrome. What comes to me, I thought about church, the imposters in church, from the pulpit to the pew. I have seen the best and the worst in us. I remember once, well, I'm Presbyterian by birth and by upbringing, which is more academic and less emotional, very pedestrian, all into the doctrine and making sure that things are in place, and it's all about a chromosome away from being Catholic sometimes, in terms of the conservatism that can be there sometimes. Not as bad as, or as bad as conservative as the Catholic, but absolutely pedestrian in our approach toward faith. Um, and I had the great fortune of growing up in a household that also had two members. My mother and I were Presbyterian, my sister and my dad were Baptists. So we go to two churches on Sunday. We go to the Presbyterian church because they started and ended on time. And then we rush across town to go to the Baptist church where there was more of a physical presentation, hand clapping and praising verbally, not inwardly.
Mhm.
And I remember when I left school, when I left college, by then I was still sort of torn. And I never felt comfortable in one church or the other as a result. It's a very strange thing. I would never felt completely where I should be. And then I went to the AME church after this, and I went to one in Lesotho. That's when I was in Peace Corps. And
Mhm.
when you go to this particular church, I can't recall the name, but this particular church had a wonderful choir. And the choir was never just in the seated behind the minister. They actually serenaded you as you came into the house of worship. So you came in the right mood and with your heart and mind in the right place. It was so different from either Baptist or Presbyterian. And I love that. But it was interesting to me to go to one church or another and feel free to clap or applaud or clap or sing with the music, as opposed to my home church where we did hardly any of that. Or to go to the Baptist church, and because I'm not participating, I become uncomfortable there because there's something in me, it's like something pulling you back, saying, no, 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 no. It's interesting how religion will develop that syndrome or that imposter habit in a person. Have you ever seen anything like that?
Oh, I've experienced it.
Okay.
So, I love these things because we get to learn how similar we are. I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school, did the confirmation and all that other stuff. And, raised in a family where there was no other religion but being Catholic. And in later years, as I had a family, we came across the AME church. And the reason why we ended up going to the AME church was because we moved in an area that um, we were living in the suburbs, and we wanted to balance, the demographics for our kids. And said, okay, well, when we go to Catholic church, we're the only Black family in the Catholic church. You're always going to find one Caribbean family
That's
and maybe one African family. So it was always something
maybe,
like
yeah.
that.
Right, right.
Nothing else. So I'm not getting that balance. Ended up finding an AME church, never heard of AME, and loved it. It was much longer. Catholic church is
Yeah,
also
no,
you're in
yeah,
an hour and you're out, right? And I liked that. But then as time went by and from moving around, ended up finding a Black Catholic church in Richmond,
oh,
right?
wow.
Two, and
Right.
loved it because because the music and everything had that Caribbean Catholic church vibe, which I don't know for whatever reason, but I loved it. Like a
Mm.
little balance between the traditional and a little more of the Negro spiritual, and loved that. And then I felt like an imposter after a while because I loved the music, I loved the camaraderie, I loved the fellowship, but the whole get up, get down, the whole military style of praying did not speak to me at all. And here I am reciting things, and they're like, these things don't make any sense to me. All of a sudden, I'm
Yeah.
just saying it, they don't make any sense to me. And I started to develop a personal relationship with God, just God,
As
and
as it should
nothing.
be, and I
And
know
yes,
exactly what you're talking
yes,
about.
nothing and no one else. And then as I started digging and trying to figure some things out, I've discovered that I'm what they call an omniist because I do not follow a religion. I am open to like little pieces. Whatever makes sense to me is what I do.
Right.
So I
Right.
don't really practice Lent anymore. I know, and Easter. I actually lean more toward Islam, but I'm still not taking in all of that either. If it doesn't make any sense to me, I'm like, I no. I start taking my little bits and pieces. And my mother always said that all religions still lead
To one place. Yeah.
to one place.
I
But I
lived.
felt that way.
Did you know I lived in a Muslim country for a while?
Pardon me?
Did you know I lived in a Muslim country for a while?
No, but I'm
Yeah,
not.
I lived in Egypt for 3 years. I was doing
Okay.
my master's degree, and I wanted to stay, and that's actually one of the reasons I left, is because it was a Muslim country. Not that Islam offended me, but I was not Muslim.
Hmm.
And in order to really meld and engage and become a part of that community, you really had to make a faith decision.
Yeah,
But I am a firm believer that we inherit religion, we don't choose it.
that's
And when you rock that foundation, you are calling into question everything that was built on it. How you think, where you go, what you believe, how you treat others, how you treat gender issues or education. There's so many other things that are built on that foundation that I never felt I could tolerate the rock. Even
right.
I wanted to join a Baptist church at one time, and I was asked, "Well, uh, are you ready to be baptized?" I said, "I've already been baptized." Yeah, well, you have to be baptized to join this church. And I found out later that that's not really true of all Baptist churches. But in that particular case, I could not see myself with a do over on baptism as if the first one didn't take. It's how it felt.
Right.
A crude way to say it, but it's how it felt. And I couldn't commit to that. So I stayed and I would continue to attend and, contribute where I could. But here again with imposter, are you really one of us or are you just hanging around?
You just really have to be okay being you. So
Yes.
if I'm more in the mode now where, and I tried it a little bit last year,
Mhm.
Ramadan started last week,
Right.
and I was gonna, I said, I'm gonna do this. I can actually do it. And then I realized that this was carnival weekend. And I had to ask myself, who am I? That I can't do both. But I said, right now, where I am in life, I wanna just enjoy. Like I just need to, I want to have that freedom and
Right.
just enjoy being free for these next few days. Now, maybe I'll start late. And there's that little bit of guilt in me, like, oh, well, maybe I'm just starting too late. I can really do, if I move as an omnius, I can
Mhm.
do it however it pleases me and what I'm going to feel comfortable with.
Right.
And
Moment
my,
to moment even.
yeah, I,
Mhm.
I'm gonna just make it simple and not feel guilty about it. I've been very happy releasing myself. Cause we always talk about like how, yeah, this is where ice cold came from, by the
Right.
way. You know, and I'm okay with it because I know that's how I am. But
Right.
the people who know me well, like you know that I can soften up and I can really just be a free person. Sometimes I need that reminder though. So for the past few days with the music and the all of the emotion of the carnival season, I needed to be doing that more than I needed to get into Ramadan. I will go back to that or have my moment where I really get down to that piece,
Mhm.
but right now I just need my brain to just be free and be comfortable being who I am. Otherwise, I am being an imposter. I would have just tied myself into that a few days ago and I would have been okay with it.
Mhm.
But I just wanted to, just let loose
Yeah.
and be
I
free.
look from a distance and I'm so envious that I'm not there. And the funny thing is sometimes when you're there, you don't even go. You just enjoy the revelry and watching and complain about the traffic, and you're pretty marginalized if you don't participate. You're either in or you're out. You're not
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to actually do anything. So, all right. Well, there is one other area.
Okay.
You ready? Hair.
Oh, love it.
I had to. I had to. And I'll kick it off by telling you, when I first met you, you used to wear your hair cropped very short.
Hmm.
I used to wear my hair the same way. You didn't know that because by the time you knew me, I was all locked
Oh,
up.
yeah,
Uh,
this is before everybody thought they wanted to be locked. Oh my gosh.
this
Yes.
is it. I had a perm, and I had started working in New York then, and it's straight out of college, all the things you do. And I moved into Brooklyn, and I took the 3 and then the 1. I got off the train, and it was a rainy day. And my hair, I remember I had an umbrella, but when you got a perm, humidity.
Hmm.
For black hair, that means you didn't hold a curl. So I'm walking down the street, and there was a barbershop I used to pass every day. And I looked in the window, but I caught a reflection of myself, and I was horrified. And I stood there and I stared at the reflection. I'm sure the people inside thought I was looking at them, but I saw me. And I was so upset about it. I took a few steps back and walked in, and I waited for the only female barber in the shop. And she said, well, I it's a barber shop. She's looking at me, wondering why am I sitting there, me and my permed hair. And she said, well, did you need a trim or something? She's trying to get to the bottom of it. I said, no, I'm gonna cut my hair off. She said, oh, okay. So she goes on, and when it's my turn, I sit in the chair, and she says, now how short, I can trim it for you, but tell me what are we doing?
Hmm.
Just cut it off. She did not believe me, and it took about 10 minutes for her to keep chopping up higher and higher until I told her, yeah, that's what I wanted. And I ended up with a high top fade. Never went back to permed hair again. I don't know what got in me that day, but I was tired of the mask, so to speak. And it was liberating in so many ways. Step into the shower, I can walk into the stream and just be wet all over. Or, and just the wash and wear of it. Now, mother was horrified. I went home soon after, I guess, and I had not told her I cut my hair. And I pulled into the driveway, and just as I'm coming to the door, my mother opens the door because she heard the car.
Hmm.
How are you? And she said, "Oh my God." She shut the door, and she starts screaming my father's name. I just can't with her. My father comes to the door, opens the door, and looks at me and say, "Oh my God, why didn't you call and warn me? I could have gotten her ready for this." My mother talked for days about how she had so carefully taken care of this hair that I just took for granted and threw in the garbage. Years would pass, and she told me about going to a sorority meeting and how she and her girlfriend were sitting there, her best bud, were sitting at a table. It was a fundraiser or something. And she said that she was so embarrassed to find that she and her friend were the only ones with perm hair. Everybody else had this beautiful hair and all the things, and plaits and cornrows and afros and locks. And she said, I just felt so embarrassed. Here I'm walking around with a Vigorole. You remember Vigorole? Oh man, that was when she came full circle with it. I don't, your mother's never gonna really find fault with you like maybe she should. But hair comes to mind because I wanted to explore your views on how hair figures into imposter syndrome if it does.
Yes.
You have the floor, madam.
That could be a whole nother hour. So, mm, we're gonna have a longer version of this when I flip this back on you, because you know I want to talk more
That's
about hair.
right.
So,
Let's go. Let's go.
the imposter thing about it is, so I've always kept my hair short. And I love that little pixie do. I've done every version of that pixie, and I loved it.
Mhm.
But it was one of the things that you just kept fighting with all the time. It's like, okay, I gotta tie it down. If I don't tie it down, the sides aren't gonna stay down. I don't, I got my hair done. I gotta watch how I'm sleeping on it. I like to be free. I just like to be free. And I don't know what it was. One day I just said, okay, I went to my hairdresser. I said, I do not want a relaxer now. I want to cut it. And I did not cut all of it off. I left a little bit, like, there's the new growth, and then there's the really straight part, and there's the little
Right.
part in the end, which is a little wavy. And the
Right.
first time I cut it, that's what I did. And I was feel like, okay,
Did you
that's
did
not
you did you
behaving right.
think, did you plan to cut it? You thought about it, or it was just a
I think I was kind of wrestling with the idea. And then when I went in, I said, okay, it's time to I'm like, I always keep it short anyway. Let's just go a little bit shorter.
right.
And what I started to love about it was the freedom. So
Mm.
then I just ended up having it cut really short, and then eventually just going to the barber to do the sides. And I got good enough that I was cutting it myself. I'd go to the barber to just shape it up. And they were like, you didn't leave anything for me to do, because I became a pro now. I love the freedom of waking up in the morning, getting in the shower. I could get it wet, do a little something to it, but not much. Go about my business. I don't have to think about the humidity or anything else. It was just about keeping it a little bit shorter. And I would sometimes get it colored. I had fun with it. I
Right.
loved it being short. And then a new freedom came to me when I decided to lock my hair. I wanted to for a while, but I never came across someone to help me out with it. um, I felt like, which was true, it is the thing that you wake up one day and this is what I need to do. Because people ask me all the time, like, oh, okay, well, I'm thinking about it, but I don't know. I said, you don't have to know.
You have to know.
You have it in mind. I said,
It'll
you
come
don't
to
have to know. I said, if
you.
you wake up, you will wake up one day and know that this is what you need to do. It is a journey for a reason.
It is a journey.
It is and
And
you
people
get
think you're
to
challenging them. You're not. You're challenging you.
You're challenging you, and it is a level of acceptance where you are no longer being an imposter. You start off, so when you start off, they say, okay, well, you're not gonna like it, it's gonna be a little spacey. And mine were really short, right? So like
Mhm.
April will be 4 years, they were really short. And then there's the budding stage, and people put on hats and tie it down and all that
The
other stuff.
scarves, the scarves, and then you let it sit up on the
I,
top.
I didn't do that. I thought I would, but I didn't. I enjoyed every bit of the
Okay.
journey, because then you get to know yourself a little bit more, the texture of your hair. You're no longer an imposter, because everybody will talk about, oh yeah, your hair is this, it's 4B, 4C, and all of this other. You start to just enjoy it for what it is. You're like, oh God, it just feels
Nice
so.
feel in your scalp. And you know what else? I've noticed having natural hair. Sorry to get into intimacies, but there's no better feeling than someone massaging your scalp and picking out one little lock and going all the way down to the root and just focusing on that little spot. Oh my
Yep.
God, it is the best. But
Look, you find yourself doing that, right? Talk about the intimacy.
self-soothing behavior. Let me tell you, I didn't do what you did though. I let my hair grow. I liked having an afro. And so I let my hair grow out and I would plait it. I wet it, plait it, and then finger comb it. And then I had that old what's her name? Oh God, what is her name? I love her. She's a comedian. The one that was in Blackish, played the mother-in-law.
Oh, Jennifer Lewis?
Yes, I had a very Jennifer Lewis hairdo. And I was dating a Jamaican guy at the time. If he's watching, he's gonna crack up. Uh, he and I went to a festival and it rained and it was humid. All the things that summer brings.
Mm-hmm.
My hair was so pretty when I left the house. I was just feeling my neo soul best. I was civil rights all over the place. That humidity got to me and I didn't realize it. I'm still walking around feeling like the queen. And so we left the park and went to get something to eat. I go in the bathroom to wash my hands and I look up and my hair was doing this, fighting itself.
Ooh.
Oh, it just, oh my God. I came out of the bathroom. I did my best to try to bring it at least so it was level all the way around. I said, "Why didn't you tell me my hair was looking like that?" She said, "There's nothing wrong with your hair." See, again, the things we put on ourselves, which is what
Right?
from earlier. He said, "Well, I don't know why you keep fussing with it anyway. You ought to just lock it." And then it just struck me. He's so right. And I've had these are his locks. These aren't even mine. This was his project. And he told, if you don't like it, just, take it out. Well,
Mm.
take it out doesn't mean unplait it. It means cut it out. And I've cut my locks a couple of times. I've been on chemo. I'm amazed I have hair, to be frank, but God's will kind of thing. But so you see, now you didn't really answer my question, so I'm coming for you now.
Okay.
All right. So you go into, and by the way, welcome to Midlife Crisis. Gotta keep saying that. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, please. Um, Nicole and I are discussing imposter syndrome and all its various forms, and kind of holding a little bit of court on whether or not it's someone presenting well, doing their best, or truly just outright faking it. And sometimes, to Nicole's point, you could be doing one or the other at any given time. So that's what we're discussing. So back to the hair imposter. You are in the grocery store or out and about in town, and you run up on a sister with these braids. What do they call them? Goddess braids or something? And they're going down to the backs of her shin,
Okay.
back behind her knee, all the way down. And they're blonde, just to make it vivid for you. What do you think? What is your knee-jerk thought
Mm.
about the woman? How are you sizing her up?
Great
Without
question.
you don't know anything about her, you passed her in the mall. And here we come with the way I'm saying it is not nice. So I'll lay a couple on that. It's not here she comes. She passes your way with this appearance. Along with I'll just even help out with the rest because it's so typical. The eyelashes
Mm-hmm.
and
That.
yes, the whole goddess thing going on. So what do you think?
Few thoughts. One, this is the generation. Every
Mhm.
generation had their thing. I our generation, or I would have to say probably the generation before me, because it's not even my generation, right? When they had in the 60s, they had the big afros and their parents didn't have it. It was they're like, where in the world are they going with this thing? I always hope that it is something that they're doing for the moment because it's their generation and it's not something they're going to carry on forever and a day. The other part for me is learning to just not judge people and let them be who they are, because I can think so much about it. I'm not a fan, don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan. But we have so many things that we're judged on all the time. And sometimes if we tie this into imposter syndrome, it's just people are always trying to find their way. She could be doing that because people have put her in a place to feel like she wasn't good enough. Her hair wasn't good enough. She had to add something to it, had to make it a different color, find some way to conceal who she really was. Because when she also takes it all off, she's not comfortable with her true self. I don't know what she's going through. That's how I tend to look at people now. I don't know what she's going through. Maybe it's something that she just
I'm
happens
I'm
to
I'm
like.
not as honorable.
You're not.
I'm not as honorable. Hell no. I look at it and say, what's wrong with you that you feel like you got to do all that?
Right. So even when I think that, I'm wondering why is it that you feel that way? Because
I'm getting ready.
I don't know
Can
what your
I tell you?
history is.
Here's my theory on why. It's the same thing with this body positive movement and women wearing clothes that are 18 sizes too small for them.
Mm.
The men are responding to it. They are giving false praise to it. And in the back of their mind, laughing at this person, this woman in particular. That's the part I don't like. We have not set our own standard with this. I I don't know. I'm torn too. It's sort of like many things that I've been noticing in society. Uh, I'll stop there, I guess, to stay safe. But I really, it bothers me. I won't say it doesn't bother me. It bothers me. I don't like seeing extensions and false hair being braided into children's hair. I don't. I just have a problem with
Oh, now I'm judging. Cause
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Okay.
that
I can't take it. I cannot take
no.
it. I'm so sick of seeing that. I really am.
And for me, it's not so much the hair and the lashes, but it's the other. And there's a stereotype that comes with it, right? You usually know it is the hair, the lashes. Or one day I was walking out of the mall and I took a, which is so hard for me to do, a little video sent to one of my daughters, and she's like, "Mommy, well, you're judging." I said, "Yes, I am." These are very young women
Yeah.
with that same persona, and they're it's not just that the clothes are tight, everything's hanging outside. I'm like, you're
Hanging,
at the
yeah.
why is that the level of attention that you need or want to have? How does anyone get to know anything about you?
About you, right. And when they bring what you're advertising for, you're upset about it.
You're upset about it. you
That
know
part.
it's part of the competition,
Yes.
for the generation. So
Yeah.
it's sad.
Mm. Next, I have a problem with, and I'm gonna get some heat. There's nobody in the chat. I'm new to StreamYard. If there are people watching, I wouldn't know. But
Okay.
well, actually, it says 0, but I've many times logged off and found out there were 30 people. It just never showed up. Um, I enjoy watching the drag community and its creativity that I love. I mean, I have seen some fantabulous, creative attire and fashions and things. I've even mimicked a few that are just really fly. Why do I, and I'm looking for an answer here from you, why do I see that differently than I see the what do they call them? Are they called bulls or something now? There's some current term for masculine girls.
You trying to get me in trouble now.
Oh, we can
Okay.
look,
All right.
you can get a pass, you know.
No, I'm not gonna take a pass because that's not what we're here for.
Well, wait a minute. Let's say, look, here comes somebody. Michigan prods. Let's see here. It says show or hide. I don't see. Oh, there it is. It showed up. You see it? Says
Yeah.
Michigan Prods. Hey, Michigan Prods.
Hi.
Doing. So, okay. So now,
Oh, you're looking for my answer.
why do
I
I'm taking the heat. I want to know why is it that I see drag one way and I see and I see these masculine girls wearing masculine clothes differently. I'm laughing because this is Michigan Prize. Let me show you all this. Used to be Preppy Lorax. Ah, this is one of two young men that tuned in to a live maybe 2 or 3 days ago, and he has been on my case about doing. Remember, I told you I was going to play hopscotch.
uh-huh.
Well, the chalk hasn't shown up, and every day Amazon keeps promising to bring the chalk, and it never shows up. Talk about imposter syndrome. They're imposters. But yeah,
There's your
so
package.
I don't have a problem with the lifestyle that the person is in. I'm trying to understand why there's an overwhelming desire to present as male when you say you are after female, but you want to say it's this is who I am, this is who I am. It's sort of like the tattoos. Everybody's an individual to the point nobody's an individual. I'm not following. I mean, I'm old timey. Yeah, I own it. I'm old timey, but I think about like this young man, Michigan Prods, who used to be Preppy Lorax. I don't have a problem. I worry about young men having to navigate the waters. Maybe they're more accustomed to it in their generation, but I feel lost because
I don't know. I wish I could help you with that because I don't know. I don't I that's gonna take some introspection. It's gonna take some introspection because I feel the same way and I don't know why.
okay.
I don't know why it's uncomfortable for me to see. I don't know why. And as much as I'm accepting of it, because I'm like, okay, this is you. Do you again? People be comfortable being who you are
Hmm.
and not being an imposter, because maybe that's who they are. So here we go again with the flip side, right?
Right, right.
They're not being imposters because they are like, this is who I am, and I'm comfortable in my own skin. Oh God, this is where the trouble comes in because if someone who associates with that might be like, okay, well that's what's going on here. I'm comfortable where I am, but are you comfortable where you are? Yes, I am.
Hey, Jake and Bacon Prods. This Prods name you all are using, there must be a crew. Is it a Prods crew or something? We have to check these guys out.
Yeah.
They're spooky. They're fun. They were fun. They were asking me about all of these shows and stuff. I never heard of that stuff. But I think
We talk.
I think sometimes my upbringing has poisoned my mind, and I don't move as quickly toward liberal thought as other people. It's sort of like what we were saying about religion and all the other things. You come to you're trying to find that balance and to find your comfort zone inside of things that even if you're not part of the community, you can still you know make peace with things, if I could say it that way. And that's been a struggle for me to make peace with everything that I'm seeing because I'm a product of my upbringing, my environment, my own personal thoughts, where I've been, who I've met, different ways of thinking, Muslim countries, Christian countries, mountain communities where the conservatism is really high, or New York City. I've lived there where there is none. It's all good. It's just been a struggle to even maybe I'm the imposter inside of that question. I don't know. Like I'm presenting who I think is more socially acceptable as opposed to or having an opinion that is socially popular as opposed to just saying, "Oh, just do what you want, be who you are." I think that sometimes there's comfort in close quarters, at least in my mind. So there are times when I think having boundaries is a good thing because I have an issue about this thing called casual Sunday. I was brought up to believe that when you come to church, you bring God your best. I don't
Mhm.
you're not why you're wearing shorts and the dresses hanging in the closet because you wore it to the club, you thought it was your best. Oh, it's not appropriate for church. Then maybe it's not appropriate at all. I don't know. I don't know. Because I have dresses I would never wear to church too, but I also have dresses. If I want to spend on that, I'll spend on something that shows God my best in a reverent way.
Mhm.
Not necessarily conservative, but reverence. Don't be a distraction to the assembly of God, for goodness sake. You can do your low cuts and your tight pants elsewhere. This is not time to focus on that. It's time to focus on him. So I don't know. Just some random thoughts there. I know I see you avoiding it, and that's
No, no. I mean, I'm not. You just really have me thinking about it. Makes me think like, oh my gosh, we have so much more conversation to get into. I mean, because this is just like these are all a whole bunch of different conversations. I feel the same way when it comes to religion. You know, we always this is how we and it is a generational thing. We were raised a certain way. Whatever we wore to church, we never wore anywhere else. Ever. Right? And now things have changed, but it's changed that way for so many things. It was like that traveling. I remember traveling as a kid, and you were
traveling too.
well, yes, if you were, yep, traveling suit, and I think I went to Trinidad in 1978 in a red suit. I remember it's a three-piece suit. Now
Here we come. Slippers,
headscarf, slippers, pajamas.
hair curlers, bonnets.
You gotta be that comfortable. Okay. I am very much against that. So these are the things we gotta think about, like right, like if I always say I try not to judge, but I do notice that I'm there like that is a major problem for me.
I wonder what this generation currently, the generations, the 18, 19-year-olds will be thinking when they become of age and look back or see their current that 18 or 19-year-olds when they become 60. What will be their boundaries and uh what will they support or discourage with their young people?
I don't know if there's anything left. And that's the hard part. I don't like to think in terms of when people say that the coming of the end is near and take a look at the book of Revelations, which I've never read, by the way, because I'm
I
like, oh,
even,
I don't know if I want to read it.
I
I
mean,
truly
I,
don't.
I was thinking more on the lines when you said that the end. There's nothing left.
There's
There's
nothing. I can't think
Kanye's
of
wife,
one more thing.
yeah, Kanye's wife wearing nothing. Are we serious? What else
Yeah.
can you show me? You don't even have a body part the rest of us don't have. So why are you showing us that? Anyway, that's on another what they say, another topic for another time. But that's really the extent of what was on my mind when you said imposter syndrome and all of the possible ways it manifests in our lives and some of the prejudices that grow out of it. I have my own. Some people will call it discernment. It's fine. Potato, semantics. It one way or the other, there's an element of disapproval in it, and that's what I'm getting at. But one of the things I like about this channel is that it does do quite a bit of projecting to see where we are and to share some thoughts of a more mature generation that's not considered elderly. But we're right in that sweet spot of being hmm, aware, more liberal than our foremothers and forefathers, and
Mhm.
having to witness what happens next and how we're dealing with it. I don't know that I'm dealing with it very well, but I'm just honest about that. So, any parting thoughts with you, or did you have any other?
I love the way you closed that out. And I've always said, I think from the time I hit 40, I said, back in the day, it used to be called Over the Hill, right? And I said that, my visual is that that's when we're on top of the hill. Because when you start off as a baby, you're climbing up, you think the climb is so hard. Because it is hard to climb uphill, but you can't see anything. All you can see is, I'm just getting older, or I'm just moving up, or I got things that I need to do. When you get to the top of the hill, it's where you can sit and breathe, and you're like, oh, shoot, well, I came this far up, but now I know at some point I'm going to start to go down.
Right.
And as you're going down, it's a little hard to go down also, but you have a greater appreciation for what you've already passed.
That and
So
your vision is going to change. You can no longer see the landscape. You can only see what's in front of you and maybe what's behind you, yes, but you also there's nothing more to it.
there's nothing more to it. And you can go down pretty quickly too. When you're
Yes.
younger, it takes forever. Like, oh, it's taking forever to get there.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, so now you try to pace yourself as you go down. But yeah, you can see the greater picture from
Mhm.
there. Even though before you could, but you remember what you saw
What you
before.
saw. Yeah.
Mhm. So it's
Mhm.
good times.
All right. Well, I hope this isn't the last time we have a chat. And I don't know what we'll be talking about next, but I'm sure it'll be a doozy.
I'm looking forward to it. It has been so much fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for encouraging me.
Well, absolutely. It shall continue. And likewise, thank you for keeping me on the straight and narrow to get my projects done.
You're
Accountability
welcome.
is where it's at. So I will be talking to you on the private side, I'm sure. But for now, we'll say goodbye to Midlife Priceless. Thanks for tuning in, especially my little my teenage fan club up in Michigan. And I will be talking with everyone later, soon enough. And bye for now.
Take care.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.